So, Brandon, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
My guys, it's been a while. Like, is that 1 year so far? How long is it you been from
I think
Utah?
it's almost been a couple.
Wasn't a couple? Oh my goodness, it been like the last year though.
Yeah.
So how did you like it there?
It's good.
It's good. Got
hmm
you got a new haircut, huh? Was it
Yes, chopped
shorter?
my hair.
So how's marriage life? Good.
Yeah, it's really good.
Well, congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So where you work now?
So I'm currently kind of transitioning. I was still working for the same company.
Oh, with the
Um,
healthcare service group.
hmm
Oh wow.
But
Okay.
yeah, so I'm recently kind of transitioning into working more kind of with disordered eating and eating disorders.
Gotcha. And then you still working with, was it Michael? Who's that? The above you? I forgot. The dietitian uh,
Oh, no, I'm not.
coordinator. No.
Mm-mm.
So you're still working with Adolfo and then stuff.
Well,
So
so I transferred out to Maryland, and then I wasn't working with them anymore once I transferred out there. So the same company, but a different
oh
staff.
with the different stuff with the different team.
hmm
Gotcha. So yeah, like we have a new channel here. It's called For Your Information. We like to spread the information about anything, like that make people getting into know a lot of stuff that they want to know. Right now, I just got a survey. They want to know about the dietitian, about like the
Mm.
nutrition, about the food. Like what your job is. Like interview people. Like we've been working for what's that, a year maybe? How long you work at North Canyon? Yeah, we worked together for that
Yeah,
long.
yeah. I think it was just over a year.
So, uh, maybe you want to introduce about what is the dietitian first of all, or what is your mainly job, maybe, so they know
Yeah.
it's a registered dietitian. If you don't mind
hmm
to.
Yeah, so I went to school to did my undergraduate in dietetics,
Uh,
and then after that, you have to do an internship, and so I completed that and then took an exam to become a registered dietitian. So it's a lot of schooling, a lot of training hours, internship hours, and then in kind of like all fields of nutrition, like school nutrition and medical nutritional therapy nutrition, and just a bunch of variety of things. And then I took the exam, passed, became a registered dietitian, and then I started working in skilled nursing facilities. That's how I met Robert, working there. So, kind of, I worked in that, working in medical nutritional therapy with a bunch of different diseases and needs and things like that. But dietitians can also work in school nutrition, or they can work in community nutrition, like things like WIC, which is working with the Women, Infants, and Children's program here in the US, or you can work kind of doing private practice with kind of your own clients or eating disorders or things like that. There's a huge variety of things the dietitians can do, but overall it's just kind of working with nutrition and kind of healthy eating and kind of whether that be diseases or just kind of general nutrition.
right, and then if people like to interested with the dietitian program, what they should do, they should get the bachelor degree and then they pursue that specific master nutrition, right? Or
Yeah, so there's different programs to do. Sometimes you can do like you have to have the internship, and then also sometimes there's like master's programs with the combined, so you can do a different bachelor's but then still become a dietitian after that. But I think the most common route is in your undergraduate to kind of do the schooling and then become a dietitian after you do that internship.
and then after that too, you still have to do the test for get the registered dietitian, correct?
Yeah, yeah, you still have to pass an exam.
Because there's my question too, but the was it on your last title say LD?
Yeah,
What?
so that is licensed dietitian,
Oh,
and
okay,
that is
okay.
for the state of like I have that for state specific. So um when yeah, so different states do different
Oh,
things.
gotcha, gotcha. I
So
have not
So
See that.
working in Maryland, they require a licensure,
So
and
that's a new title that you got right now,
yeah,
currently in
yeah. So
Maryland.
before, when we were in Utah, they required a
Oh, okay.
certification, so it was CD. Now it's LD,
Oh
and
God.
most states here require like a licensure. So you just have to apply with you have to be the dietitian, and then you just have to apply to work in that state, basically.
Gotcha. And then are you still working over by the now it's the hospital or nursing home or
Yeah, so I was. I'm currently not right now, but
okay. So you just looking for some new thing, right? Or some new journey.
yeah, yeah. So I'm looking at doing kind of disordered eating and eating disorders. So I'm kind of working on that right now with a job, and then I also have kind of like an Instagram where I spread information about that as well.
Oh, nice. So, what is your passion right now? Like, are you more with the children nutrition or adult or senior nutrition? Which one? Or you just do the whole thing in general
Yeah, overall, kind of in general, but I'm kind of right now mostly working with adults.
with adults? And how do you like it?
That's good.
It's good. So I know I've been working with you, and then getting all that information, and then we talk a lot, and we discuss a lot of about the we call it resident over by
Mm.
the nursing home, because and then I just Google it about what is the most common people looking forward question about the dietitian or nutrition, and they probably pop-ups 10 frequently question that been asked for dietitian.
Okay.
I mean, I can go there, but do you have something that you wanna presentation about how it
Yeah,
live?
I just have like 5 simple tips for the
Okay,
nutrition healthy eating. Yeah, I can share those if you want. But if you want to ask any questions, you're welcome as well.
okay. So like, just pop up one that the most question. I know it's like, oh my gosh, I'm not ready for this part, but I think I'm just gonna go for general questions, uh one that I just Google it. There's just like, what is the good source of protein? I mean, you probably can explain
Yeah.
your expertise on that stuff.
Yeah, so usually lean meats are a good source of protein, such as like chicken or different poultry products, and then also different red meats as well. But there's also certain things, I mean, you don't necessarily want to eat every meal, every like higher fat meats. So overall, I mean, those are good sources of protein. And then some kind of not mean sources are some things like beans, like black beans or kidney beans, things like that. And then also things like tofu. So there's quite a variety of different protein sources.
And then there's a lot of option or alternate if you think that chicken is kind of pricey for you for right now, like what happened with what in the world right now, you can do the beans, right,
Yeah,
for that substitution.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, there's still usually you can get pretty good protein from like those animal sources, but
Right.
there's definitely alternatives with those plant sources that are really good sources as well.
Correct. So there you go. And then the second question, what are good and bad foods?
Okay. So I don't usually like to think of foods as good and bad because then it kind of makes it so black and white. Because
Uh-huh.
I'm definitely for kind of an all foods fit approach and kind of just balancing it out. Because overall, to me, kind of a healthy diet includes kind of all foods and not just like the typical foods that we think of as good or bad. But overall, I would definitely think of it as more like nutrient dense. So those foods, we can talk about this a little more too, but those foods that are going to contain more nutrients, those macronutrients, the protein or carbs or fats, and then also those micronutrients, which are a lot of in the fruits and vegetables. So the vitamins and minerals, basically. So overall, kind of foods that are going to contain more of those nutrients are going to be overall better for a healthy diet. But again, I feel like foods that have less nutrients or all can also fit in a diet and help you kind of balance and still live a healthy life.
Right. Are you talking about just the how you manage the portion thing about?
Yeah, and then portions also make a difference too as well. Kind of, I mean, too much or too little of anything is not good,
Correct.
right? So kind of, yeah, considering portions as well. And that is different for everybody.
Yeah. And then this is the third question, which is might be interesting because the question is how can fluids be added to a diet? So,
Okay, so typically when we think of fluids, we're going to be thinking of like drinking water or juice or things like that. And those are definitely like what I would recommend drinking water most. And then, but other fluids, I mean, we still get fluids from food and then things like, I mean, you can still get fluids from soup or different foods like that. If you think of like any foods that would turn into kind of a liquid, is going to have more liquids in it. But overall, kind of focusing on getting plenty of water for hydration. And then a lot of people don't like just like the taste of plain water. So there's always an option to add different like flavorings or adding like fruit or things in them, things like that. So, I mean, overall, I definitely recommend trying to get like for basic hydration, like water and things like that. But there are different sources and different ways to get your hydration in.
and then was it different, Brie, about like the age for how many milliliter of fluid that you should take, like uh, uh like kids, adult, and elderly? Are they have like a different like the amount of the fluid they should consume or
Yeah, I mean, you definitely want enough, and usually your body, you'll kind of know if you're getting thirsty or not
intake?
to kind of hydration. But overall, I mean, I don't know the specific recommendations. You can probably look them up on the top of my head.
Okay.
But usually there's kind of a certain amount we recommend. I mean, you don't want kind of less than a certain amount, but that's kind of different depending on, like if someone's exercising a lot, you're going to definitely want more
right,
hydration
That makes
versus super active versus like if they're, just in bed all day kind of thing. So overall, just kind of looking at that, but then also just kind of, getting a good amount.
it depends on whatever that people activity it's
Yeah. And then kind of, your body's needs.
right. And then number 5 question is how can fiber be added to a senior diet? A fiber can be added to a senior diet.
Okay. So definitely depends. Like there's a lot of different foods with fiber. So it definitely depends on what that individual likes. I mean, I definitely wouldn't tell them to eat all these foods that they don't like because then they're probably not going to do it. So that's one thing, but certain things you can look on like nutrition facts labels for fiber, but usually like breads will have fiber, like those grains, the breads, and then also things like the leafy greens would have the fiber, and things like sometimes certain things. So if you're looking at it from a meal perspective, there's always like, oh, well, maybe I should choose this food for breakfast, like some oatmeal or something that's going to have a little more fiber if that's what your focus is. But it depends kind of like, I mean, we do need kind of a certain amount. There's recommendations for a certain amount of fiber a day, but kind of probably just swapping in some of those higher fiber foods for some of those lower ones is probably the easiest way to do it.
Right. And then number 6 is how important is vitamin D?
Oh, it's definitely important. We definitely need it. It's not as common in foods. We can get it from sun. And so it's kind of a unique in that way. But there are certain foods that are fortified with it. Like oftentimes milk can be fortified with it or things like that. Sometimes people take supplemental vitamin D.
Right.
And usually you hear people say like, oh, I feel better have more energy because I took this and things like that. But I definitely recommend that's something before taking a supplement or something like that, talk to your doctor about it to see if you actually need that supplement and what you should be getting for sure. But overall, yeah, it's definitely important to have enough vitamin D in your diet and kind of just getting enough. So sometimes that means getting enough from kind of like the sun or just getting enough from, food.
Or natural, or you can take it from vitamin, right?
Yeah.
And then I know we almost get there. I know it's just like what the heck? Question. It's like number 7. What about medication and food interaction?
Yeah, so that's something, I mean, there's a ton of medications. So that's something there's some obvious ones that people know about, kind of like with vitamin K, like leafy greens and coumadin and things like that. But there may be some that if people have questions about, I would definitely recommend that looking at your medication list and talking to your doctor about that.
Of course. And then point number 8, what kind of fat is okay to eat? So it's just probably about good fat or good cholesterol.
Yeah, so not everyone's gonna kind of respond the same way to every kind of fat and things like that, just depending. But usually, kind of typically more of those unsaturated fats are gonna be better. You can look at kind of like the nutrition facts label again, but usually those unsaturated ones versus like the super saturated, and kind of thinking about it in foods, that would be more typically kind of more certain foods have different fatty acids and things like that, but it would kind of be looking more at kind of like the olive oil or things like that would typically be more your unsaturated, and then the saturated would be kind of more those butters and things like that. So overall, I mean, again, I feel like, all things can kind of like fit into a healthy diet, but that's probably what the question is, kind of focusing on more of those that, certain ones can kind of raise your cholesterol more, raise your levels more versus other ones. So that's probably what it's referring to.
Are you agree if I say like it just depend on amount, like how much you using it on your food?
Yeah, and that would definitely impact for sure as well. Yeah, if you're eating a whole cube of butter a day, that's going to impact you different than a tablespoon.
Like for instance, like we cannot do on a cardiac diet with that saturated
because that usually raises kind of more the cholesterol levels and things like that we're watching out for.
That's why you here for, huh? You just get consultation with those people and
to kind of talk about what are typically better.
I missed that. So number 9 is what helps with a poor appetite. Anything that helps with a poor appetite?
So that could, poor appetite could be for different things. I would definitely, probably the first thing I can think of is kind of like the environment you're eating in. Kind of making a space and a time to eat is going to make it have a better appetite. And then also just, it's possible with different hunger or fullness cues. So just looking at kind of what you're eating and when. And then also, if certain foods or certain things are turning you off from having an appetite, then kind of looking at that. So definitely looking kind of at what's kind of maybe causing that poor appetite, and then kind of going from there. But overall, probably, I think kind of maybe changing up the environment, changing kind of what you're doing, your routine with that.
And this is like, I'm just thinking about, this is what my job and your job too, before we just we talk to the patient or the resident and ask what we can do better for, having your appetite back. Because we absolutely don't want to have that malnutrition, because, they wait those patients every week, and then you just concerned about it, and then the nurse will concern about it, and then they go to me like, all right. Okay.
So a lot of our patients
makes sense, like, okay, this is what I did.
A lot of the ones we had were, they were coming from the hospital. A lot of them had nausea and things like that. So for us, it was important to make sure they had foods they liked, first of all. And then if there was anything that kind of bothered them or kind of making sure, their environment was good for their food, but also getting foods they liked and kind of seeing what we could do to kind of boost their appetite that way.
Because that become your concern too, like when they do the weekly weight, the resident was like,
Yeah.
why
Yeah.
5%? Was it 5% or 10%? Remind me again. That is
So it was both. So it's 5% in a month.
in a month, huh? That's the bad thing. Okay, gotcha. That makes sense. And then the last one here, the most popular question is, how do you deal with unintentional weight loss? Oh, there you go. I think it's related with number 9. So how you
Okay.
deal with unintentional weight loss?
Yeah, so that one kind of goes back to kind of looking at the cause,
Okay.
because that could be, I mean, sometimes people have unintentional weight loss because of disease or cancer or things like that. And that's going to be sometimes, I mean, there's certain nutrition things we can do, but I mean, that's, you want to get to the root cause of that. And then sometimes it could be because someone's restricting, and maybe you want to look at potentially an eating disorder or something like that. Or if, it's different things like that, or maybe kind of looking back at, maybe they don't have a great appetite because they're getting nauseous because of they're doing something during the day or something, in their environment, or something just happened with their health. And so kind of looking at the root cause of that is something, and then kind of going from there, because that's kind of hard to say what you would do depending on kind of what the situation is.
Gotcha. So this is just like depend on case per case, huh? Like,
Yeah, I mean, there's certain things I would definitely recommend for unintentional weight loss, but I would definitely want to get to the root kind of cause or reason
what it's
for it
called.
first.
Gotcha. All right. Well, you answered all the 10 questions that most people ask about question for the registered dietitian. And then maybe you can have something information that you can spread to us about. I know I'm reading about the simple thing is my plate, but you might have something on on your presentation today, maybe about how to be. I mean, how eating healthy.
Yeah. So I just came up with kind of like 5 tips. We can go through some of the stuff I was going to talk about in those. We kind of
Right.
talked about a little bit, but yeah, I can just go through them, and then if you think of anything else, we can talk about it as well.
Right. All right. Awesome. Yeah.
Okay.
Looking forward.
Yeah, so my first tip is kind of thinking of nutrition and healthy eating as very individualistic. So something that might work for somebody else may not work for you, and kind of vice versa. And I feel like we're kind of caught up in a diet culture where we see someone doing a diet or just healthy living, and we think, oh, we need to be just like them, or we need to do this exactly to be healthy. And that's not true. Healthy kind of comes in many ways, healthy eating. It's not just one way. And different people are going to be different based on kind of like their gender and their ethnicity and their culture. And so healthy eating for one person is going to maybe look different for another person. And that's totally normal. So just kind of remembering that, I think, is really important, kind of in healthy eating and kind of a healthy lifestyle. And then, of course, especially with different health concerns or different diseases, or everyone has different things in their life. So definitely, before applying any nutrition things, kind of like even we talked about, just definitely talking to your doctor or healthcare provider, because everyone is so unique. And like I said, what works for someone may not work for somebody else. And kind of what we're talking about is pretty general today, but that's definitely one of my tips, is just to remember that everyone is unique, and that's good.
Right.
So yeah. Oh, were you gonna say something?
No, yeah, everyone's is unique. I agree with that. Just that.
Good. Yeah. And then my second tip is to diversify. So we kind of talked about this a little bit, but just kind of getting a variety of different proteins, different fruits and vegetables, because those contain a lot of those vitamins and minerals. And I think if we get too caught up in thinking, oh, I need this exact vitamin, I need this exact mineral, unless your doctor tells you, you need to focus on something because you're low. But other than that, I would definitely just try and get a diverse plate. And in different cultures, I mean, there's typically a staple food, like if you think rice or bread or something like that. at most meals, and that's totally normal, totally fine, but kind of thinking about what we're putting with it. So spreading out those different fruits and vegetables, different proteins, so that overall we're kind of getting different nutrients in our diet. And so that's kind of going to help with overall healthy eating. And then the third tip I have is balance. So kind of what we talked about with my philosophy of all foods fit, and just getting a balance of kind of that fiber and those fats and those sugar. We often, or diet culture kind of often thinks of like, oh, sugar's so bad or fats are so bad. And over the years, it changes and it gets so confusing. And we think, well, what really is healthy eating? So I think if we think of it just an overall balance, and you can kind of think of it as like you were talking about the My Plate, or sometimes, people, different countries have different things about what that is, but kind of just getting an overall balance of different nutrients, and kind of like we talked about, too much or too little of anything is not going to be good. And of course, there's different amounts of different proteins or different carbs or things that we need. And some people might need more or little. And there are recommendations with different government things like My Plate or overall for general health. But just kind of thinking about those healthy foods, and then kind of like we talked about, kind of all foods fit, making up a healthy diet. And then kind of my next one is, my fourth one's kind of focusing on the mind and body. And so sometimes we can get caught up in thinking, oh, healthy eating, healthy diets are kind of consist of only kind of that diet and that exercise. But we want to think more of our body as a whole and our mind. So sometimes we're going to want to eat because of pleasure. We're in a social gathering, we want to eat. Or most times we want to make sure we're listening to our hunger and fullness cues as well. So that's kind of be focusing on our body, and then kind of focusing on its needs, and not just telling it, you need to be following this diet because this is what I heard on the internet that is good. So we're really focusing on what our diet, or what our body, actually needs. And then also that does include our mind. So kind of focusing on that physical health, but also that emotional health, and kind of bringing that all together, because food is meant to be enjoyed as well, and not just, totally focused on every little detail, making sure it's totally healthy up to the standards. But yeah, were you going to say something?
No.
Okay.
I'm listening.
Okay. And then kind of my
4, right? That's number 4.
Yeah. And then my last one is kind of just like I mentioned with enjoyment. It's just food enjoyment. So food is meant to be enjoyed as well. It's definitely easy to get caught up in, oh, we need to eat these exact foods to be healthy. We need to eat this specific way. But overall, food is meant to be enjoyed. So we want to enjoy it. It's meant to be enjoyed with family and friends. So part of healthy eating is, to me, is focusing on kind of like your environment you're eating in. So does that mean you're sitting down with family? Does that mean you're sitting down with friends? Are you eating at a certain time? You do want to focus on those hunger and fullness cues and eat when you're hungry, but also, are there certain times of day where you eat? And then kind of like even the dishes that you're using to eat off of, and like what that means. And so we don't normally think that as like healthy eating, healthy things, but those definitely impact our overall health and our overall healthy diet. So that's something I think we need to remember and consider in a healthy diet. So yeah, that's kind of my basic 5 tips. Did you have any thoughts with those or questions?
No, that's awesome, because I didn't notice that until now, that point number 5 that you brought it up about like those kind of lifestyle, like that actually really into your topic right now. So like that's good. Like, so you don't want to push your body to be like, okay, I have to eating right, this is what, based on the formula that you gave. But you want to be on your mind too, set it free about, you still can enjoy your food with your family and sitting there. So that's absolutely great. Good sources. I was like, I didn't think about it, but Well, thank you for bringing that point.
Yeah,
Because
for sure.
like how it just like I read about the dietitian just based on textbooks, but I didn't know like maybe they have a new updated right now since you point that one on the last
Oh, well,
point.
that one, I feel like it's
Oh, is that?
kind of, I mean, it's like I mentioned, it's not like talked about a lot, but it's something
Oh,
that
okay,
definitely,
okay.
if you're thinking of like healthy eating and healthy topics, you're not usually thinking, oh, let's just talk about how to enjoy our food,
Right,
but just kind of like working with different patients or different clients and different things like that. It's definitely something that I have experience with and then also have seen and
right.
kind of been around as a dietitian. So it's something that we don't always think about, but it's something that's so important in kind of
Exactly.
considering.
Yeah. Now I'm thinking about it. Well, thanks for bringing that point, Bree. Because like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good point. Like that's the things about the discussion today. Like we're trying to get more perspective about what is diet, what is nutrition. What is the basic diet, what is the basic that you need to know about healthy diet, or like enjoy. But still on that point, you just not focus on like uh how many portion that I have to eat every day, like how many gram. Like a lot of people just
Mhm.
read their carbs or calories about, so they just like hold stuff that they can still enjoy it, but since like they
Yeah.
too restricted, they can like, oh, I should not eat this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they're not enjoying their life, right? Is that
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like that makes it harder to go.
right?
Like, if they're so focused on, oh, I can't eat this carb or this thing, and so maybe they'll go to a social gathering, and then all of a sudden they can't, relax and enjoy their social gathering because they're so focused on trying to eat healthy that by cutting out something or to
Right.
focused on that one food. So that's not. I mean, they may in general terms be eating healthy, but that's in itself not going to be a super healthy habit or healthy for their diet.
Right. So do you have any suggestion for people out there? I mean, like this is summer, right? It probably like it's hot in there too. It's around like 90 here in Utah.
Hmm.
Not sure how many degree in Maryland right now.
Yeah, I'm not even sure, but
But
it's
yeah,
definitely summer.
oh yeah, then you just need to drink a lot of fluid, a lot of water.
Hmm.
But thank you for today. I mean, there's a lot of information that you trying to tell us about how to be live healthy and but still enjoy your life. Like anything that you can say, Brie, or to people out there, like like to spread this kind of that dietitian or nutrition thing.
I guess just kind of like we talked about.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of like what we talked about is a lot of general stuff, but kind of if you can focus on certain things with being healthy, but like you mentioned, also enjoying your food, then I feel like overall that's a good approach to kind of healthy eating. But
Yeah.
then if there's any individual concerns with different kind of concerns with health, or if somebody has like diabetes or thyroid issues or cardiac issues, I mean, that might be something that their diet may look a little different, but kind of a lot of these same principles would, or same kind of tips would apply. So then kind of maybe just talking to someone they know, like their doctor or healthcare provider, to kind of see how that would best fit for somebody kind of trying to apply these individually as well.
Right. And then I think the my plate is just all international, like everybody having that grain, fruits,
Hmm.
and then vegetable, and then they have a protein plus dairy. So it's
Yeah,
all
yeah. So
all common thing.
it's definitely a good resource.
Hmm.
I mean, like we talked about, overall kind of getting a balance and variety in kind of those areas. But the reason they kind of do that is because there's a lot of like research, the governments and different bodies have looked at to
Uh-huh.
kind of see what would be best for kind of a general population of
Okay.
food. So that's kind of why they recommend those. So they're recommending the dairy so we get certain nutrients. They're recommending the grains and those carbs so we get kind of a basic certain amount for our energy needs, and then kind of like the proteins and then the fruits and vegetables. So overall, it's just kind of like a good general resource to kind of see. And then they have some good resources online that you can look at to kind of what your plate kind of should generally look like. Of course, I mean, you know, you don't want to get too caught up in like everything kind of like we talked about, but yeah, there are some good resources with My Plate or things like that where kind of can just help like the overall kind of what a healthy diet is.
Exactly. Well, thanks for today. I mean, you gave us a lecture about more information. I mean, like, you
Yeah,
know, like
hopefully
I'm
more
back in
information.
college. Yeah,
Yeah.
like having all this information. Thank you, Brie. I know you're busy, so maybe next time we can chat and then talk about it more details. If a lot of people ask, you don't mind if you spend your time. We'll see.
Yeah. If people respond and have questions, we can definitely do a follow up.
Awesome. Sounds good. Well, enjoy your day in there. Is that 6 o'clock?
Yeah, yeah,
It's time for dinner, maybe. All right,
yeah.
Bree. Thank you so much for
You're
your time.
welcome.
Bye now.
Bye.